Unreal. Unreal, because we're doing a video that's not live. Isn't it crazy? We're not live. We're doing just a regular video. What is going on, guys? You're listening to a special edition of the Realest podcast. It is currently December 30th. We're just over 24 hours away from it being 2017. And so what are we going to do? We're going to be giving you our best and worst moments of 2017 with WWE and what we thought really give our thoughts on it. Joined by Andrew, and I'm joined by this guy named Kyle who only shows up at pay-per-views.
Pretty much, dude. You know, I'm just a part-timer now. I'm the John Cena of the company.
He's a
It's
John
cool.
Cena.
I get paid the big bucks just to show up whenever I
Yeah,
want.
dude. Exactly.
But let's I say we. Are you okay?
Dude, I'm gold.
Oh, well, I just hear a bunch of fun. But 2016 has been a very down year for wrestling in WWE, but it's had its moments of having its ups. With the debut of AJ Styles happening at the Royal Rumble on January 24th, to us seeing John Cena versus AJ Styles on June 19th at Money in the Bank. We've also seen we've seen a lot of stuff to where Triple H and Roman Reigns main evented WrestleMania 32, which is considered one of the worst WrestleManias of all time, to also having a brand split where we actually got Raw and SmackDown pay-per-views, with Backlash starting off for SmackDown being good and Clash of Champions being, a mediocre show. Turning around to having No Mercy be one of the best pay-per-views with a triple threat match to start off for the WWE Championship, to having the Intercontinental title tell one hell of a story. Hell in a Cell had its moments also, being the first Hell in a Cell women's match that, wasn't great, between Charlotte and Sasha Banks. We saw Charlotte and Sasha Banks wrestle 6 times, and the title changed hand every time, 6 times. Sasha won it 3 times, and Charlotte is a 4-time women's champion. Survivor Series saw the return of Goldberg, who beat Brock Lesnar, the Man, the Beast, the Conqueror, in around 2 minutes and 12 seconds. We saw TLC be called one of the best main events of the year, to turn around and have Roadblock, which was one of the most boring pay-per-views of the year. It has been one of those years, and that was not scripted. I did that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'm being dead serious, and I'm proud of myself.
Wow.
Real. Well, damn.
But, what do you guys think? High moments, we don't have to just do pay-per-views. We could do Monday Night Raws, high moments or low moments. What do you guys think of 2016 altogether?
It's definitely been an interesting year. It's been, like you said, a lot of ups and a lot of downs. We've seen a lot of really amazing new talent from WWE and NXT. A lot of really new talent I didn't think would make it here. A lot of guys we know, a lot of guys we don't know that have blown us away. A lot of talents that were pretty garbage. A lot of people returning, a lot of people leaving, kind of thing. So it's been interesting. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs we could mention. I don't know where to start.
I don't know, man. It's just, if you look at where we started and how the company was struggling, trying to find out what was best for business, right? Okay, well, let's try a brand split. And, for a while there, we were optimistic. And part of us were like, oh, man, SmackDown is going to be really bad. Fast forward a few months, and what is it that we're saying? Oh, SmackDown's amazing. Oh, I hate Raw, though. And you wouldn't know it if you took a look at the roster, too. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the WWE has been successful in most areas. I would say that they are least successful in anything Raw. Raw pay-per-view, Raw shows. That's where I think they need improvement.
Yeah. We're also going to be including NXT in these best ofs. But we are going to be doing them separately, because if we just say best pay-per-view 2016, we're obviously going to be saying NXT all the way. Now, speaking of, we can just start off, right off the top. In all honesty, what can you sit down and say is the best pay-per-view of 2016?
Dude,
If we're
that's a
talking
hard
about strictly
question.
WWE, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I'm going to say Either TLC or No Mercy of this year.
See, for me, it's hard because part of me wants to say No Mercy, but then there's a part of me that really wants to say the Royal Rumble. The reason why I say the Royal Rumble is because the Royal Rumble will now always share and hold a spot in for me in my heart, I guess you could say, to where man, we had our first YouTube show at the Royal Rumble. We had with Wrestling Rocks. We had our first YouTube show. We had a Royal Rumble party, which we had people show up and watch the Royal Rumble with us. I mean, we saw the debut of AJ Styles, who returned, and it still gives me goosebumps if I go look back at his entrance. It's just there's a lot, dude. Like it's really hard for me to go off and say that because obviously, yeah, the Royal Rumble. Once the Royal Rumble was over, I got up and I thought, oh my goodness, I know what's going to happen at WrestleMania. It was too predictable. But man, I'll go with No Mercy because of storytelling, and I mean the triple threat match was great, and the storytelling in the Intercontinental title was outstanding.
I'm gonna go with TLC. I mean, as much as I like No Mercy, there was only one match on the card that was terrible, and that was a chairs match, and I kind of just want to wipe that from memory. So, I mean, as opposed to No Mercy, where I've only really enjoyed two matches.
I mean, dude, it's crazy how with SmackDown or just like with No Mercy, the storytelling in the Intercontinental title. We're getting to a point where we're like, man, we've seen this already. There's no way that we're gonna be seeing Dolph Ziggler leave and then turn around and, and he's tweeting out, if there's any booking info is right here because his contract was coming up. So we were like, what the hell is he going to do? And then with TLC, we saw a great main event where we actually saw AJ Styles' pants rip and we saw his bare ass cheek to, I mean, it was great. We saw Alexa Bliss win her title.
Yeah.
It's just looking at it, it's just very memorable moments. Toward the end of the year for SmackDown. I mean, I've been more excited for SmackDown pay-per-views 100% than I have for Raw. Where it's a SmackDown pay-per-view, woohoo! It comes to Raw, it's like, okay, this could be good. Let's just see.
Yeah, and that's what just does it for me. It just No Mercy. Like the big thing about No Mercy that like would put that in the contendership was that match with The Miz and Dolph Ziggler. And all the hype leading up to it. I mean, like you're saying, man, it legitimately seemed like he was going to leave. He was on Twitter, I'm going to be wrestling my last match. Here's my booking info in case I lose. Like, for a long time there, I was actually thinking that he was going to, retire, call it quits. But, yeah, man, they threw a curveball. They put on they tore the house down. I mean, in terms of WWE, I still think to this day that it contends with Match of the Year.
Yeah, Kyle, you've been super damn quiet. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been just kind of letting you guys go, but really thinking about it and listening to what you said before, Blake, in the intro about the pay-per-views, I think I got to agree with you guys. No Mercy was just, I mean, you guys said it all, really. It was just amazing storytelling and really great wrestling. The IC title match really just took it for me. Just like you guys said, I guess I can't really add much because you guys covered everything. That match really, we saw that a bunch of times, but they really stole the show on that night. There's not much you could say. That match alone, I mean, everything else in the card was great too, but that match alone really gives it to me. So I agree with you guys. That's definitely my pay-per-view of the year, I think. But it's kind of hard to pick. There's a lot of them. Like, and you're picking TLC was a really great one. Royal Rumble was one. SummerSlam, I mean, it wasn't a great pay-per-view, but some of it was good. Like the match, like AJ and Cena tore down the damn
Well,
house.
I mean, that's match.
So that's one for me up
That's
there
like
too.
for match of the
Yeah.
year, though. I mean, if I was
Yeah,
to
it's
go with
definitely
that,
up
I
there.
would be throwing in Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. But I mean, like all together, a pay-per-view that I can say I sat from the beginning to the end. I mean, shit, I can even throw a Backlash in there. Like
Yeah,
I
but I
really
mean,
can.
really take a second to like sit back and listen to what you just said. All the pay-per-views you are mentioning are SmackDown, and that's what's wrong with the company right now.
I mean, AJ Styles
Mhm.
wins his first WWE title. You have the women's, the Fatal 4-Way or whatever for the women's SmackDown Women's title. You have the tag team tournament finish for this first SmackDown Live Tag Team Champion, which we saw Heath Slater and Rhino win. Like, there's a lot there that's really good. There really is. But I mean, I don't want to go through the negatives yet because that's just hard. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess what can you guys say was the return of the year? Like when that person returned, you're like, hell yes, thank goodness this guy is returning. What's your return of the year?
Man. Well, I mean, are Goldberg and Brock Lesnar kind of included in that? Because then that makes it a lot tougher
Return, not
if
match.
Goldberg's included.
Well, you could throw in Goldberg.
I mean,
See,
Goldberg's a return. Yeah, I was
I
gonna
would
say
say
because
for
he's a
me,
return. He came.
definitely return of Goldberg because as much as a letdown that match was to some people, to see Brock Lesnar get his ass kicked in less than 2 minutes, I don't know, man. Like that was just like, oh my god, that's classic Goldberg. It's just like leading up to it, like, oh, this is gonna be a fight. This is gonna last a long time, and just for Goldberg to come in, after so many years and just destroy Brock Lesnar. For me, I don't know, man. It was some sort of poetic justice because I'm such a huge Randy Orton fan, and to see what happened to him, at the hands of Brock Lesnar, for me, it really contributed to the emotional value that was classic Goldberg, who was the only person that I tuned into to see Monday Nitro. Like I was always a WWE fan from the beginning, but there was always that one guy that I had to make sure I watched his matches, and that was Bill Goldberg, and that was classic Bill Goldberg. So for me, it might be more of an emotional pick, but I'd say like the not the breakout superstar, but like the surprise return would go to Goldberg for me.
I mean, return wise, I'd have to say Seth Rollins.
That's what I was gonna say.
The reason why I say Seth Rollins is because I didn't like him when I first started doing the show. I was kind of like, the dude's kind of fucking annoying. But like sitting down and thinking about it, without him, dude, like we honestly had a decent Survivor Series lined up in 2015 because we can't forget that it was going to be Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, and I was actually kind of like, oh, this that actually could be really good. Um, but I mean, you go to it now and it's he gets hurt. Roman wins the title. Oh well, I mean we get the whole Sheamus versus Roman Reigns affair, which I mean, do we really want to remember that?
No, that
So
was more like a last minute thing to kind of get him over. It was just, uh.
yeah, so we turn around and I mean Roman wins the title, makes the title very boring. Triple H wins it, which everyone was happy for, of course, and Roman wins again to make it payback. Roman versus AJ Styles. AJ Styles did great. Extreme Rules. Roman versus AJ Styles. Again, it was good, and and everyone will say, "Hey, AJ held that and made that a good match." People can argue saying that Roman Reigns did a good job also. And then we finally saw Seth Rollins return after Extreme Rules, challenge for the WWE title, win, then lose to Dean Ambrose, turn around, and then we obviously saw Dean Ambrose versus, which one of the biggest controversies was Roman Reigns failing a drug test and still competing in the main event at Battleground for the WWE title.
After not appearing on any shows for a month.
Yeah, and his punishment the punishment for failing the drug test
Was taken to pinfall.
was losing. He wasn't even going to lose, but it leaked, or he wasn't even going to be suspended, but it leaked out.
Right.
Unreal.
And I think that was a big thing that we touched on this year, like when that was big news back in the summer. It was just like, if it was anybody else, like Adam Rose, what happens to them? They're gone. They don't get those opportunities, They want to be in the pay-per-view, or they want to be over there to be like, hey, you're gone.
Yeah, but I mean, Kyle, what was Seth Rollins' reason for him being the return of the year for you?
Well, just I mean, well, like I mean, he's kind of tied with Goldberg, but I would feel like for more of the company, yeah, it is Seth Rollins being my top guy. But because just the way that he's been, like even in NXT or even like forever, like even watching like WWE 24, you see how good he was when years ago, like even the beginning of his career, he wrestled AJ Styles, and AJ even gave him like, dude, this guy's going to be leading the company one day. Like even back then, they knew he was good. Ring of Honor, he was that fucking good. He comes to NXT, becomes the first champion, and like even they knew he was that good. Then he comes to the main roster. He just completely does amazing with the Shield, has his own singles career, and then wins the title. Is the top guy. Even if he's the top heel, the crowd loves him. That's not easy to do. To get to like to change people, to really like move people like he has. That's not easy to do. And for him to do that, and he's like, you could even see he's the kind of guy that makes or breaks a company. And he's really done it to WWE. He was a guy when he was gone, they didn't really know what to do. They just, like you guys said, just basically just threw the title at Roman. That's all they can do. But Seth Rollins really, you could put him with any guy in any feud, in any situation, and he will make it like a 5-star match, an A+ feud. That's why he's really like he's leading the company right now. That's why his tagline is the man. He really is. So that's why it's, for me, he definitely is like the biggest deal of a return because they needed him back here. And when he got injured, they even knew like, dude, it's gonna be rough until you're gone or until like you come back. It's gonna be rough. So he's like you guys even got to know. You guys agree that he's definitely like one of the best in the company right now, if not the best.
I kind of want to throw a curveball here and get off this topic or get off the topics and everything. Let's talk about this if we can. One of the big rumors that's been going on for all of 2016 has been, excuse me, has been without a doubt Kurt Angle returning, and we've been saying, well, could we see him return? Could we? Could we? Could we? So here is the rumors have come up again. We haven't talked about him in about 3 or 4 months, and I've actually lately I've kind of been like, well, really haven't heard anything from him. It's been kind of odd. So big news coming in: Roman Reigns, Kurt Angle is expected to stop going to independent shows in March. Rumor has it he's going to be returning to the WWE before around April, if not before. Even more rumors being that Kurt Angle could be a surprise entrant into the Royal Rumble. Also, another big story is Kurt Angle could win the Royal Rumble, turn around, and then we have a fatal four-way for the WWE Championship or a triple threat. Who knows? For at
I would be
WrestleMania.
all in for it. Kurt Angle is an amazing athlete, and he's probably only got another year or two left with the company if he does come back. And I will treasure every single minute that he gives the company. It's been a shame that he's been away for so long because he's produced a lot of great matches that are my favorite till this day. So, you know, I'm hoping the rumors are true. I'm hoping he's back in the company sooner rather than later because I know that his body's hurting, that he's getting to the point where he wants to call it quits, but he doesn't want to do that until he gets back into a WWE ring.
Kyle?
Yeah, and also it's the fact that because he's been away for so long, the thing with him is that if he doesn't come back, I don't even know if he would be in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's something insane that I can't even think about because he deserves it more than a lot of people do. And so, I mean, I think him returning would be an amazing thing because I mean, he is getting up there in age, so it's hard for him. But I think he can like have one more title run in him. I think he definitely has that in him. I think he can do it in the future. If he's gonna return, he needs to do it like soon. I want to say.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the only time I talk or we really talk about him for a little bit. I mean, it's again, it's one of those things. Just like if it's going to happen, then it needs to happen. Just enough of the talk. But let's get into this. I mean, let's talk about female of the year. What female wrestler can you just look out? I mean, we can include NXT here because I'm not going to make NXT exclusive for this topic. What's our female wrestler of the year? Really, who is it?
Charlotte.
Charlotte?
Charlotte. You can't really give it to anybody else. It's Charlotte. She has had an amazing year. She's held the title. I mean, yeah, she's lost it a few times yet, but she's always got it back. She's still undefeated at pay-per-views. You could just throw so many statistics for her. She's easily female wrestler of the year. Like, there's nobody that can really compete, unfortunately.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I want to give it to Sasha. I don't.
I don't think you really can.
See, that's the thing, though. It's because it's like when we're talking about this, are we talking about what they give to the company or what the writers have done for them? If that makes any sense. I mean, in terms of what they've done for the company, you could easily say Charlotte and Sasha 100% because of what they have done in their whole career so far in terms of entertaining us. I mean, they are probably the two most exciting women that have ever laced up the boots. But like in terms of storyline, like going into like, oh well, what's going on? It's a little hard to say, okay, Charlotte and Sasha. I mean, it's easier to say Charlotte because of her record and everything like that. But I mean, everybody has such a sour taste from them trading the titles that it's hard to say, okay, well they are the women of the year. You know what I'm saying? It just I don't know. For me, I would have to say something along the lines of I'm going to give it to Nikki Bella. I mean, I don't give enough credit to
Really?
Nikki Bella, but she was the longest reigning Divas champion before they got rid of the Divas title. She came back from an impossible neck surgery that she probably shouldn't be wrestling again, and ever since she's come back, she's looked good. Her feuds have been good. I haven't been annoyed by her. So, like for me, like in terms of like what a female has attributed to the company itself, I'm going to say Nikki Bella. Um, in terms of achievement, obviously it's Charlotte.
Man, uh, I don't know. I mean, I honestly might have to give mine to Bailey.
Really? Wow.
I said I'd include NXT in this, but my reasoning is because, man, when she wrestled, other than her match against Nia Jax, which was in 2015, so I don't include that one, it was good. You wanted to, whenever Bailey's name came across, you wanted to see her. You wanted to see her wrestle. You wanted to see what she could do. So that's easily mine. I mean, I think the best match she had in 2016, out of all the NXT takeovers, out of NXT, would probably be Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn was her best match in 2016. Um, let's
Well, what about most improved woman athlete?
most improved from.
Like the person that might not have been in the best position, but by the end of the year they have kind of showed their grit, showed their contribution, show that they are better than they were originally perceived
In 2016.
in 2016.
I mean, what you're basically
I think I know
asking.
who I might give it to.
I don't know who I could give this one to.
So,
I would say Alexa Bliss. I mean,
Well,
for
I
me,
wouldn't say
I
Alexa
was going to
Bliss.
say the
I
same
wouldn't say
thing.
Alexa Bliss, and here's why. In my opinion, if there's no brand split, she's nowhere. She's nobody.
true, but there was a brand split, and it allowed them to really give her that opportunity that she needed
But
to,
if
and
we're
she's really
talking,
taken a run with it.
but if we're talking about improvement, man, I'd have to say both Carmella and Nikki Bella. I didn't expect anything for those two. I got hyped for it at SummerSlam because I was like, hey, you know what? It's good that you're back. I'm glad that you're back. I'm glad that you overcame your injury. But when it comes, but that's it most improved. Now we could say this out of both men and females. I'll just put this out there, out of the men and women who with the brand split, who has taken an opportunity and who has, you know, basically made the brand split, has overcome the brand split and made it the best thing for them.
Yeah,
Basically.
and when we got to the males, I was actually gonna bring that up again, but for me, it would be the Miz, 100%. I don't think you can throw any other name out there but the Miz.
I wasn't thinking about
You
that,
might
but
you might not hate him or you might not like him, and he might not have been your favorite superstar, but if he isn't one of your favorite superstars or at least one of your favorite heels by the end of 2016, then there's something wrong with you because that guy has been rock solid. He has been the most improved. He's gone from an absolute nothing gimmick where he was basically, a sidekick with Damian Sandow, a nowhere out of nowhere faction to being quite literally probably the best and most entertaining Intercontinental Champion we've seen in years. Years.
Yeah. You there? Everything okay?
I'm here.
I thought you were gonna
Are we
keep.
missing anybody?
No, I thought you
Nope,
were.
nope.
I thought it was just like in years and years, and I was like, yeah. You
No,
still wanting
just
to
stop
go?
there.
You still wanting
No.
to go? No, I wasn't even like talking trash. I was just like, it sounded, so
You good,
no,
bro? You good? You want to throw
no.
down?
But when it, I agree because we probably still being just getting, his little show. To be honest with you, with the Miz, we probably just get Miz TV or
Yeah.
whatever he calls it. That's probably all we would be getting. I agree. I think the Miz out of the men, and this is where I'll say out of the females, Alexa Bliss has taken her opportunity and she's ran with it.
Yeah, 100%. It just she didn't get that opportunity in NXT, and from the get go, I saw the potential that she had in NXT, and you know, it is kind of like the Ty Dillinger effect over there with Alexa Bliss, which is there were so many women that needed to be in that position, whether it was Bailey or Asuka, that could have grabbed that title. There was no room for Alexa Bliss except for to be with Blake and Murphy, and then even before the draft, there was no place for her until you got to the brand split. And that's what the brand split was supposed to do, is open up those opportunities that you wouldn't see. And, it really helped people like Becky Lynch and, Alexa Bliss really grab that brass ring and be unique and, separate from everyone else.
Kyle, you are allowed to talk on the show.
No, I know, man. I'm letting you guys run a bit, and then I'm
No,
gonna squeeze my
he's
way
he's
in.
only waiting to the pay-per-views.
Yeah, he didn't want to give any of his thoughts until the pay-per-view.
Well, no. I was gonna say if we're talking about kind of who the men's superstar of the year, I was gonna say we should really divide it between main event, mid card, tag team stuff like that because there's a lot of guys you could say I would say for mid card, I agree definitely the Miz has had an amazing year, but I don't know if I could say that for all the men in general because you got to look. I'm sorry to say it, I know I always do, but you got to look at AJ Styles and see the year he's had. He has had one of the best he's had one of the best, if not the best, first years for a superstar of all time. It's been amazing.
Well,
he debuted at the Royal Rumble, had one
you
of the
can
biggest
make an
pops in
argument.
history.
Yeah.
You could, but I mean,
You
again,
can make an argument that he's the most improved.
You can, but but the argument comes up again without the brand split. Where is he?
And we know where he was before the brand split. There was absolutely nothing that they've done with him other than use him as a mid card talent.
Mm-hmm. But then the brand split happened, and they gave him an inch, and he took a mile. Man, he's done amazing things as being a heel on SmackDown, he's leading that brand, and he's one of the guys that's making it to where it is now. Like I said, it's AJ Styles, like you said, it's the Miz, it's people on SmackDown that are making that the number one brand, and it really is. We can all agree in entertainment value from a casual watcher to people like us who really dissect everything we watch. They've really made it amazing.
Yeah. What's your woman? What's your female?
My female, I mean, thinking about it, it's female in general. I gotta go with Charlotte, but most improved, it's Alexa Bliss. I mean,
well, no, I wouldn't say improve. It's taking the brand split and making it, taking the opportunity. As in, if the brand split doesn't happen,
okay.
they're nothing. So you could put up the argument, the Miz, AJ Styles. I mean, he'd be there, but
Yeah.
we don't know if AJ Styles would be where he's at right now without it. And Alexa Bliss. That's what we're saying.
Well, I think also you could even throw Becky Lynch in there too because she wasn't really doing much. She just had kind of bullshit feuds, and then they gave her the title and gave her a chance to kind of be the top woman on SmackDown. You could even argue her as well. There's a lot of names you could throw in there.
There is. I mean, there really is. Now let's throw into this topic of discussion that's going to be probably a lot. Match of the year.
Oh no! Why do you gotta do this, dude?
There's so many good matches, and there was one that
match of the year for NXT and
Oh, come on, man!
main roster.
Okay, well,
oh, it's rough.
Here's my.
I got a couple ideas actually.
I have a couple ideas too, but there's one there's one match that really needs an honorable mention, in my opinion, and that's Cedric Alexander versus Kota Ibushi at the Cruiserweight Classic. That match was spectacular. In
Yeah.
terms of build up, in a tournament setting where there's absolutely none, you know. But they were able to make a nice little story out of it, giving the fact that they had no build up. And it was just a great match, and it led to Cedric Alexander being signed by the company because of the overwhelming respect that they had for both of those superstars. So like for me, like at least in an honorable mention category, I don't know if we would consider this NXT, but Cedric Alexander versus Kota Ibushi, 100%. In terms of NXT for me, I would have to say I'm going to say Takeover Dallas, and I'm going to say the Revival versus DIY
That didn't
for
happen. That didn't
NXT.
happen in Dallas.
Was it Dallas or was it Brooklyn?
I think it's Toronto.
Which one? Because there's two.
The
Yeah,
second
which
one.
one?
The
Second
Griffin
one,
second
Falls?
Toronto.
Toronto. Okay, so Toronto. Um, yeah, I like them in Toronto, and then for main roster, and I know you're gonna shake your head at this, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it because it was a great match and I loved it. So, Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz, match of the
It's
year.
respectable. It was a great match. It really was.
Yeah.
How about you, Kyle?
Oh man, I'm trying to. It's so hard because it was really a lot of matches. Like some from NXT. Like I really think that Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor in the steel cage.
You
Or
mean
not actually, say
Samoa
not
Joe?
Shinsuke. I'm sorry. Yeah, Samoa Joe. Sorry about that.
Man,
Samoa Joe and
you
Finn
guys
Balor.
have people
I thought
wrestling
that
that
was good
haven't
because
wrestled yet. DIY versus the
no,
Revival.
well, I mean
in
they
Dallas.
did actually. Finn Balor and Shinsuke did
That
happen.
happened.
Which
Well,
one?
yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. It happened. They just did like a match. Like they were because Shinsuke was like, I have to like get through the icon to like move on to the title. Remember that?
Yeah.
They had like a regular match. But I mean, the one big thing with me with Samoa Joe and Finn Balor in the steel cage was that we knew Finn Balor was pretty much gonna be moved up, and that was like that was the nail in the coffin that he lost. It's like we're gonna see him on the main roster finally. We've been waiting so long for this. But there's so much great talent in NXT. Like even matches with Ty Dillinger in them. Like
Hmm.
he does so well. Bobby Roode with them. There's so many
That
great matches.
Bobby Roode in the Fatal 4-Way was fantastic as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many. It's so hard to call, but
But I mean,
I
that's
mean,
NXT.
if I
That's not roster, right? I mean, main roster
yeah, I
doesn't
know, yeah,
nearly produce the
main
amount
roster.
of matches that are as excellent as NXT or the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah, but for NXT, I mean, I guess thinking about it, like I said, just the Samoa Joe and Finn Balor match really just kind of like I said, the meaning behind it was Finn Balor. Like if he lost, he was going to the main roster, and he lost, and we finally got to see him move up. So I would pick that one for NXT. For the main roster, there's a lot that come to mind, man. There's a lot. Like AJ Styles and John Cena at SummerSlam comes to mind. Man, you're making it hard on me, Blake. You're making it hard. The IC title. I guess I got to go with John Cena and AJ Styles because that feud alone, just like without even the matches alone, was that it's like the man in WWE versus the man of the Indies, and so them two coming together and then their final match at SummerSlam, just like to end the feud kind of thing, was really they tore the house down. So I got to go with that one. Although the IC title is definitely a close second. That Andrew
God, and I just thought of a question, but one of the big things that I'm gonna add, or thinking of, it's like 100% AJ Styles versus John Cena is my match of the year. I just got to decide which one it is, because for me as a kid, I loved AJ Styles, and I never got to see him come into the WWE. And it was one of those things like the guy seems like he deserves it, but what do I know? I'm nothing. I'm nothing special. We get to
Mhm.
see it. The Monday Night Raw still to this day gives me goosebumps. For 5 minutes, we got a chance of AJ Styles versus John Cena. Money in the Bank is the first AJ Styles versus John Cena match. Great match. Outstanding match. The second one at SummerSlam. I don't consider the tag team match at Battleground, I don't consider that a match. So, I mean, man, if I'm going to have to consider match of the year, I'm going to go with SummerSlam because of the fact that Cena lost clean. He lost clean,
Exactly.
and we were surprised. So that's my match of the year. NXT, I think this is really hard.
Yeah, NXT's
This
hard.
one's the hard one
Yeah.
because like there's so many honorable
Yeah.
mentions. You have DIY in Brooklyn, DIY versus the Revival in Brooklyn, DIY versus the Revival in Toronto.
Toronto.
You have Bobby Roode versus Ty Dillinger in Toronto. You have Bailey versus Asuka 1, Bailey versus Asuka 2. You have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn.
Hmm.
Shinsuke Nakamura versus Samoa Joe in Toronto was really good. There's so many good ones. Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. Just the first one was outstanding. The one in Dallas was outstanding. There were so many. But
We just need like a top 5, dude.
no, we can't do that. We can't. We
No,
gotta
I
go
know.
with our top. I really am gonna have to go with Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn.
That was such a great match, wasn't
Oh
it?
yeah, that was.
I really do. At NXT Dallas, NXT Takeover Dallas. That event alone outdid WrestleMania. Just wow.
And
Here's
if I can interrupt you for a second, just
Yeah, go ahead.
one quick thing about that match. One of the best parts about it that I still love to this day is when they're sitting there having a slugfest nonstop.
yeah.
That is what, and the crowd just eating it up. It was amazing, and they wouldn't stop because they were doing it for the crowd, kind of thing. It was amazing. But go on with what you were saying.
Here's the next one. Which moment out of all of 2016 you can sit down and say gave you goosebumps? Like you sit down and just wow, like I, just goosebumps. The crowd's going crazy. Everything. I have like 3.
I have 2 off the top of my head right now.
We'll go for it. For what? What?
Off the top of my head,
hang
I
on,
would.
Andrew. What were you gonna say?
Wait, what, Andrew?
For me, it was when
Oh.
they went back and forth chanting AJ Styles, John Cena.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, that's definitely one for me. But another one is just Goldberg in general, just returning. Him coming back after such a long time. After the bad blood that happened, he finally came back to the crowd. He did his classic entrance coming through. We saw him walking. He came through the pyro stuff like that. That was one of the best things.
I would say that would be our what the fuck moment, really. I mean, that was the least. That was the thing that
Our
we
holy
least
shit
expected. That was our holy shit moment, man. It was like, oh my god, like I mean, and you know, it's funny too because I know Blake, you said this too when we got on the Skype with everybody else. You guys should have heard me. I'm not even kidding. When I was watching that match, I was screaming so loud. I was like, "There's no way."
That is something
No way
I
that
wish
he's
I
gonna
would have
beat him.
recorded.
I
thought
freaked
about
out.
it. I really thought about it, but I didn't.
I freaked out so bad. I did not expect that, and when it happened, I went nuts.
Now,
Dude, that was me for when AJ Styles at the Rumble. That was mine.
I
You were, I'm sure.
see. Here's my 3. Number 1. I mean, like, if I were to pick one, I'll tell you which one I'm gonna pick. But AJ Styles going at the Rumble. I remember seeing Roman's face, like, and you hearing the crowd react. I looked over at Chris and said, "It's got to be someone big." And I saw him, head down, arms out. I jumped up. That's AJ Styles. I freaked out. Him and I are both freaking out. I just remember, oh my god. And then, John Cena returning with, from his shoulder injury, and then having AJ Styles interrupt him, and it's just like, oh my god, like this is actually a thing. And there's 5 minutes of the chanting, and then Money in the Bank. The first 5 to 10 minutes of that match. The reason why I say that gave me goosebumps is because it was just like, again, wow, this is actually happening. Like, I cannot believe that. Now, the moment that gave me goosebumps, I'm going to give it to the Money in the Bank match between John Cena and AJ Styles. Because, again, it was just one of those, I cannot believe this is happening. Like, out of everything that, could have happened and is happening, I would have never believed that I would see AJ Styles versus John Cena. So that's mine. Just, God.
One big one for me was definitely. I mean, it's got to be Goldberg beating Brock Lesnar. Just not even alone, just the way he did it too, though. That was like, holy shit. I mean, we kind of predicted he was going to win anyway, but not in that time. That was like a holy shit. That's got to be one of the best moments of the year. It definitely has to be. Like when the Slammy Awards come up, dude, that's got to be one of them.
Well,
That's gotta be.
what's everyone's what the fuck moment of the year?
Well, definitely Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar.
Is it for you, Kyle?
I mean, I'm trying to go through my head, but that's definitely that's probably the one because just that match happening and just the way it went, I was like, what the fuck? This is Brock Lesnar, the Beast incarnate, who decimates everybody, who got beat in less than a minute. Like,
Yeah, man. This was
I
a
was
guy
speechless
who,
watching
the
it.
last time you saw him on a live pay per view, hit Randy Orton repeatedly so hard that he busted open his skull and he needed stitches to repair it. He was bleeding everywhere.
Exactly.
That's the last time we saw him, in terms of wrestling before Goldberg. So to go from that to that was just unbelievable. I mean, we know what Goldberg does. I mean, if you are a huge fan of Goldberg, you know who he can be. But especially after their first match at WrestleMania, which both of them didn't really have any heart into it, still nobody expected it to be over in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of things that were like, what the fuck? Are you serious? I'd have. By the way, we're not saying that that because that happened that we loved the match. We're not saying that at all. But I do agree with that. That was the what the fuck of the year. Um, I mean, let's get to the negatives, man. Worst pay per view of 2016.
We're all gonna say like the same things, pretty much.
All right, everybody go at once. 1, 2, 3, fast lane.
Survivor Series. I mean, we could say Fastlane, we could say a Roadblock, something. But I mean, the one big thing for me, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna do a question, but most disappointing pay per view has got to be a question. Not even just bad. I just want disappointing
Oh,
because Survivor
Roadblock.
Series is that for me.
Roadblock.
I think Survivor Series is that for me. That Survivor Series is pretty disappointing. They had a lot of moments of great things and they didn't.
Yeah, the
That's
only
one
thing
big
that
one
came
for
out of
me.
Survivor Series that was good was the men's Raw versus SmackDown. In reality, that was the only thing that good
Exactly.
came out of it. Um, this is gonna sound very, and Chris is if he listens to this show, he's gonna be kind of upset with me. Mine's a toss up. Mine's a toss up between Fastlane and WrestleMania. I went to WrestleMania. We cannot forget this. I went to WrestleMania, and I am up here saying I wasn't into it. And I really tried to be into that pay per view. I really tried to like want to jump up and go crazy, but there's nothing to go crazy for. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, like I said,
So
it's up there as one of the most disappointing pay per views, man. It really is. It's unreal, and that was the biggest WrestleMania in history. The biggest one.
now, if we're asking for the most disappointing pay per view, mine's SummerSlam.
Really.
That was very disappointing. The only great thing or good thing that came out of SummerSlam was John Cena and AJ Styles. Other than that, can you remember what happened at SummerSlam?
I mean, I remember Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton.
You had Enzo and Cass get
That
beat by Kevin
travesty.
Owens and Chris Jericho. The New Day won. I don't even remember who their opponents were. AJ Styles beat
Probably the club.
John Cena. Finn Balor won but tore his shoulder. Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton win their shit. I mean, it wasn't a great night. Dean Ambrose versus Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. Like
Yeah.
it was a
Which
disappointing.
was that was one of the worst matches of the year. That
It,
was horrible because
yeah.
the one thing about it, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The biggest thing about it is the crowd literally didn't give any shits about the match at all. There was nothing happening. There was no cheering, no clapping, nobody even saying a word. It was like everybody just went for a piss break. They would go get some popcorn, something like that for the next matches. No one cared. And that's sad to see that. For a main event for SmackDown at the time, that was their main event, and that's how it went.
Yeah, and that was around the time where we were like, dude, SmackDown fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't last long, did
No.
it?
So, I mean, there's that. I mean, we got most disappointing. What's the out of all of the NXT takeovers? Which one was the worst takeover?
That's hard. I don't know. Uh,
To say that there was a bad takeover is I don't know. It's you can't say that there's a bad takeover because there wasn't. My least favorite would have to be I don't know.
Exactly.
Dallas, maybe. I don't know. Dallas,
What? Dallas is
not Dallas.
considered the best one.
Sorry,
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. I'm gonna say Brooklyn. Because I like Dallas. Now that I'm remembering who was actually in Dallas,
Man,
because that was the debut of Bobby Roode, if I remember right.
it
Right?
was
Da-
his debut
yeah,
match. Debut
yeah.
match.
But then it was Brooklyn I didn't like. I always get Brooklyn and Dallas confused.
Man, I would have to say out of all of them, the end. NXT Takeover the end. The only reason I
Yeah.
say that is because it was very forgettable. Like
I don't even remember it. So
Shinsuke Nakamura went up against Austin Aries, which was good, but I mean nobody remembers it. The Revival went up against American Alpha in a 2 out of 3 falls match, which American Alpha lost. I think it was a 2 out of 3 falls. The women's championship was Nia Jax versus Asuka, and the main event was the cage match, which is probably the most memorable thing that came out of it. If you know, if
Yeah,
I
I
go off the
agree
top
with you,
of my
but like, I
head.
would say the end.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of other negative things that we can go off of here. I really can't. I mean, we can do this. Which superstar can you say has been the most disappointing?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not gonna throw Roman in
That's an
there. I'm
interesting.
really not gonna throw Roman in there.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's probably Sami Zayn because he's going nowhere creatively. Well, no, I wouldn't even throw Sami in there. Let's do this. Biggest waste of a superstar in 2016. Are you ready for mine?
Yeah.
Darren Young.
yeah, well they got him with Bo Dallas now, so it's kind of he's a lost cause. um, I don't know. For me, when I really think about it, like most underused talent,
If we're
I'm
going
gonna
underused, it'd
say
be Sami Zayn.
okay, Sami Zayn. But like in terms of like they aren't being used creatively, I'm gonna give it to the club because I heard a lot of good things about the club. I remember Gallows when he was in the WWE originally, and he had a better gimmick then than he does now. So it's kind of like I don't know. You hear about these big bad guys called the club. They're supposed to be the next big thing in terms of like the NWO, and they come to WWE and immediately the club's put to shame. AJ Styles is put to shame. You know, the only person out of that group that, you know, kind of rose and kind of shook off that, you know, that vibe was AJ Styles, and it was only because he went to SmackDown. You know, I mean, if he was on Raw, I guarantee we not be talking about him the way we are now because we know how Raw uses the talent.
Yeah, I was trying to think of mine actually, and Andrew, you saying that is definitely going to be mine. The club because you don't even like you what you've heard good things about them. Me, the difference is I've watched them in New Japan. I've seen them even at Ring of Honor, all kinds of places. I've seen those two guys, Gallows and Anderson, and they do amazing things in the ring. They do amazing things on the mic, amazing things in feuds. They really do. A part of Bullet Club, they do great things. And I was so excited to see them here and they are getting used like shit. They are getting like any opportunities they get, they just completely get squashed because they just end up just like being the New Day's bitches, and they get made jokes about them and all that stupid stuff. And they get some kind of push. They're like, okay, the fun and games are over. We're gonna beat all these like good tag teams, and then they do nothing with it. They do almost nothing.
Well,
So
it's
that's
not just
definitely
that too. It's and this is probably worse than the squash matches in my opinion. It's the dialogue. You took away what made them unique. Like in terms of not only are they not being allowed to use the wrestling style the way that they were dominant in, but you take away their dialogue as well. I mean, they're basically the high school bullies now. You know, all they're doing
Nerds.
is walking around nerds. Geeks,
Let's also think about this.
losers.
The club or Anderson and Gallows have yet to have a clean win in a big match.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, dude. They are definitely. Oh my god. Because it's my thing is that not a lot of people know them from New Japan. I do. I've watched them so much with Bullet Club, and they are so good. And they come here and do nothing.
Well, the
They do
only people
absolutely
that would
nothing.
remember Gallows would be the ones that saw him when he debuted in WWE. But that was a long, long time ago. You're talking about, if I remember right, when he debuted, that was when the last brand split was active. So that was that long ago. So, for the people that have stuck around for generations like me, it's kind of like I know who he is and what he has the potential to do, like from where I've seen him and what I've heard that he can do. And it's just like, no, they're just not doing what they could with them.
Well, here's the final thing, and it's going to be this. And then before I ask the final question of the night, um, I am going to be doing a podcast with a friend of mine from Xbox. I don't know what it's going to be called exactly. We're talking. It's going to be more video games and more of pop culture. He asked me to help him a co-host. I said yes. It has nothing to do with wrestling, and I am not leaving the Realest podcast. I'm not leaving the Realest podcast. I'll still be here. The Realest podcast. The podcast is still my priority. But every Saturday, not including NXT days, I will be going live over there. Well, not me, but I will be live on Twitch with him. We will be doing our podcast then. But if there's an NXT takeover, I will not be doing that. But the final question is, will WWE be better in 2017 than it was in 2016?
That's an interesting one. I think they will be. I think that time will be able to help a little bit. And I mean, the Royal Rumble already starting that off, like starting the year off right, in my opinion. That's already like a great way to start off because we already have Brock Lesnar and Goldberg in the same match. We have John Cena and AJ Styles happening. We have okay, I was going to say Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, but that's not a good thing. Stupid. There's a lot of good things that seem like they're happening so far, so I think it's a
That
good way to
could
start off the year.
happen.
That could, okay, yes, could. They have potential to be a good pay per view, guys. Yep,
Oh, that's the kiss of death. You just did it right
I
there.
know.
We just answered our own question there. And did we even go over like our best superstar of the year?
Yeah.
Did we?
I mean, we can redo it.
Uh,
Mine's AJ Styles.
in terms of best superstar of the year,
Like,
I'm gonna go with AJ Styles for me. And this is talking about somebody who's never been introduced with AJ Styles. For NXT, I'm gonna say Bobby Roode.
Yeah, mine's got to be the same thing. It's got to be AJ. I mean, I don't mean to sound like an AJ Styles fanboy, but just like I said before, even the announcers have said he has had one of the best first years in history that a superstar has ever had. He's had one of the best. I mean, he went from debuting at the Royal Rumble to now being the face of SmackDown. Like, that's not easy to do. I mean, let alone face of the company. Like, he has a title in his first year. That's not easy to do. He got amazing pushes. He got started off using like shit, and now he got the right push that he needed. So, that's my guy.
all right,
Okay.
so I think that's gonna do it for us. We've really went into a lot. I honestly expected the match, expected the show to be a bit not as long. I really didn't. We will be live with the Monday Night Raw review. Started 2017. The Our regular scheduled programming will be going back up. So Monday, Tuesday will be the Raw and SmackDown review. Thursday being next big thing. Saturday being keeping it real, and so on and so forth. I cannot wait until the Royal Rumble. So for Andrew and for Kyle, everyone have a good New Year. Be safe if you're drinking. Do not drive. So until next time, peace out.
Peace out, guys.